Salut tout le monde et bienvenue à un autre épisode du podcast Avant-Match. Mon nom est Joey Alfieri. What's up everybody? Welcome to another pregame podcast as the Montreal Alouettes get ready to take on the Toronto Argonauts Saturday night at BMO Field. It's a game that may mean something in the standings. It may not. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but we have a very busy show. We will break down the last game against the Ottawa Redblacks, which the Alouettes won, which allowed them to clinch a playoff spot, or not a playoff spot, or a home playoff date. That means they can't finish any lower than second in the East Division, but they are now gunning for top spot in the East, and that could happen as soon as this weekend. As always, we start the podcast in French and we finish off strong in English. This week, we have an interview with a player who played his 100th CFL game last Saturday in Ottawa. Mr. Avery Ellis, the defensive end, will join us in just a couple of minutes. Alors, comme d'habitude, on commence en français et on termine en anglais. Cette semaine, on a une entrevue avec Avery Ellis, qui a joué, un des deux joueurs qui a joué son 100e match en carrière dans la Ligue canadienne de football la semaine passée. Lui et Alex Gagné ont été les deux joueurs qui ont réussi à jouer 100 matchs dans leur carrière la semaine passée. Bon, écoute, on a un épisode quand même chargé. On va parler de ce qui s'est passé la semaine passée à Ottawa, ce qui va se passer cette fin de semaine à Toronto et évidemment, on a l'entrevue avec Avery Ellis dans une couple de minutes. Alors, la semaine passée, sur le balado, on a parlé du fait qu'il fallait avoir vraiment un bon départ à Ottawa pour gagner ce match-là. Et c'est exactement ça ce qu'on a eu lors du premier quart. Écoute, les deux derniers matchs, ou les deux derniers matchs à Calgary et c'était quoi là? Contre Edmonton, ou non, contre les Lions de la Colombie-Britannique, excuse-moi, on tirait de l'arrière 10-0 lors du premier quart. Là, on a pris l'avance tout début de match grâce à une interception de Deontay Ruffin qui l'a ramené jusqu'à la zone début. Ça a donné l'avance aux Alouettes 7-0 et les Alouettes n'ont jamais tiré de l'arrière dans ce match-là contre le Rouge et Noir. Donc, c'est un moment idéal, parfait pour marquer le premier toucher défensif de la saison. Ça a pris un peu de temps. L'an passé, on se souvient que c'est arrivé quand même souvent. Cette année, un peu moins souvent, mais la défensive joue quand même bien. Si on regarde, si on enlève les deux périodes de prolongation à Calgary, la défensive a accordé 13 points. Et 10 de ces 13 points ont été marqués, c'est des points marqués sur revirement parce que l'attaque a échappé un ballon et les unités spéciales ont échappé un ballon aussi. Donc, ça a compliqué la vie de la défensive. Donc, on a accordé 13 points en temps réglementaire à Calgary. Et la semaine passée, c'est quand même 12 points contre une équipe, oui, qui a eu quand même beaucoup de blessés. Mais si on regarde, ils n'avaient pas perdu un match à domicile à l'année longue. Donc, c'est la première fois cette année qu'ils perdent à domicile. Donc, c'est quand même pas une équipe qui est facile à battre à Ottawa, le Rouge et Noir. Donc, le fait on s'est rendu là et qu'on est allé chercher la victoire, quand même énorme. Donc, c'était le moment idéal pour avoir ce revirement-là. C'est sûr qu'on a eu le revirement de Quentin Hercou. C'est sûr qu'on a eu, on a eu on a eu une autre interception sur un converti de 2 points ou tentative de converti de 2 points du Rouge et Noir. Donc, c'est quand même la défensive a bien joué, a provoqué des revirements, pas alloué beaucoup de points. Donc, la défensive a vraiment bien joué. Sur les unités spéciales, je trouve qu'on a dominé aussi, pas juste au niveau des retours, parce que James Letcher a réussi 2 longs retours, mais même juste côté physique sur les unités spéciales, je trouve qu'on a vraiment fait du bon boulot du côté des Alouettes, notamment avec Tyrell Richards, qui est de retour depuis une couple de semaines. Richards, je trouve qu'il est quand même un monstre sur les unités spéciales. C'est vraiment spécial de le voir jouer sur cette unité-là. On espère qu'il peut rester en santé, mais à date, là, c'est quand même fort depuis qu'il revient de sa blessure. Il a fini avec 3 plaqués sur les unités spéciales. Mais même, mis à part les plaqués, il est toujours difficile à bloquer sur les unités spéciales. Tu sais, c'est pas le fun de bloquer T. Rich. Il est gros, costaud, il est grand, puis il court vraiment bien pour un gars avec son gabarit. Donc, c'est toujours un problème de match-up pour l'autre équipe parce que T-Rich sur les unités spéciales, c'est vraiment fort. Donc c'est ça. Donc, le fait qu'il soit revenu, je sais qu'on l'a pas vu beaucoup en défensive, mais c'est un joueur clé sur les unités spéciales. On a mentionné Letcher. James Letcher a bien joué aussi. Les bloqueurs en avant de lui ont vraiment bien fait. Et ça a mené à des points. Deux placements, si je me trompe pas, sur des longs retours. Donc, on va voir. Je sais que l'attaque, ça va un peu moins bien. C'est normal qu'on se questionne en attaque, mais je pense que on a réussi tellement de jeux explosifs en début d'année que les défensives adverses, ont fait des ajustements, oui, mais c'est normal que ça ralentit un peu parce que on peut pas rester sur ce trajet-là parce que c'est juste trop, peut-être trop, c'est pas le bon mot, mais c'est impossible qu'on va jouer on va être aussi dominant en attaque tout au long d'une saison de 18 matchs. Là. Tu sais, c'est normal que ça va changer et qu'il va y avoir des périodes un peu plus difficiles, des périodes creuses à travers la saison parce que la saison est tellement longue, le quart arrière revient d'une blessure. C'est pas des excuses, il faut être meilleur côté attaque, mais si vous vous souvenez, l'an passé, c'était la même chose. Mi-saison, la défensive jouait bien, les unités spéciales ont vraiment bien joué en deuxième moitié de saison. L'attaque, il y avait des bons moments, des moins bons moments, mais lors du match de la Coupe Grey, tout a bien fonctionné. Et donc, j'ai quand même, moi, mon feeling, c'est que l'attaque va se redresser et ça va mieux, ça va aller beaucoup mieux de ce côté-là. Donc, c'est ça pour le match de la semaine passée. Donc, cette fin de semaine, écoute, on peut officialiser le fait que les Alouettes peuvent se terminer en première place. Tu regardes, c'est quand même assez simple, mais le Rouge et Noir joue à Regina à 3 heures samedi. Et nous autres, on joue à 19 heures à Toronto. Si le Rouge et Noir perd ce match-là, avant même que notre match commence, on va avoir terminé, on va avoir sécurisé la première place. Donc, les Alouettes, même avant le match à Toronto, pourraient confirmer la première place dans l'Est. Mais si le Rouge et Noir est en mesure de gagner à Regina, une victoire des Alouettes est suffisant aussi. Et s'ils terminent en première place, ça serait la première fois depuis 2012, donc 12 saisons, que les Alouettes vont terminer en première place dans l'Est, ce qui veut dire que c'est la première fois depuis 2012 qu'on va avoir la finale de l'Est à Montréal. Donc, c'est quand même, ça fait longtemps. C'est sûr qu'on a gagné des matchs en séries éliminatoires depuis ce temps-là, mais la finale de l'Est ne s'est pas jouée à Montréal depuis 2012, ça fait longtemps. Les Alouettes ont perdu ce match-là au Stade olympique contre les Argonauts de Toronto. C'était le dernier match de Mark Trestman comme entraîneur. Le dernier match d'Anthony Calvillo en série. Donc, tu sais, c'était vraiment l'air a changé. Tu sais, des choses ont changé après ça. Donc, vraiment impressionnant de voir comment le tout a changé depuis ce temps-là. Mais ça fait longtemps qu'on n'a pas eu la finale de l'Est à Montréal et là, on a des vraies chances de l'avoir ici bientôt. Donc, défaite du Rouge et Noir, victoire des Alouettes. Ça en prend un de ces deux scénarios-là et les Alouettes vont confirmer la première place dans la division Est. Côté alignement pour ce match contre Toronto, c'est un gros match pour les Argos aussi. Là. Ils ont perdu contre les Tiger Cats la semaine passée. Ils ont perdu les 3 matchs contre les Tiger Cats cette saison. Donc, c'est une lutte quand même assez chaude côté la troisième place dans la division Est, mais le fait que le Rouge et Noir a perdu, les Argos pourraient finir en deuxième position, comme qu'ils pourraient finir en quatrième position dans l'Est. Donc, la vie est compliquée pour les Argos s'ils sont pas en mesure de gagner ce match-là contre les Alouettes. Donc, quand même, gros match pour cette équipe-là. Côté alignement, pour les Alouettes, écoute, c'est simple, pas beaucoup de changements de ce qu'on peut voir. Euh, En défensive, il y a 2 changements. il y a Lorenzo Burns qui était le backup à Nafis Lyon. Là, ils vont inverser ça. Là, c'est Lyon qui va être sur le banc en défensive et c'est Lorenzo Burns qui sera partant. Lorenzo Burns qui porte le numéro 43. Joueur, tu sais, je le connais pas très, très bien. Il a joué son football universitaire en Arizona. Les 3 dernières saisons, il a joué dans la USFL et la UFL. Il a gagné le championnat chaque année dans ces ligues-là. Ça fait 3 ans de suite qu'il gagne un championnat. Et Noel Thorpe a été son entraîneur à Birmingham en 2022, si je ne me trompe pas. Donc Noel Thorpe le connaît très bien, il connaît le système de Noel Thorpe. Et moi, de ce que j'ai pu voir, tu sais, de ces bandes vidéo que j'ai trouvées sur YouTube, c'est quand même un joueur physique, un joueur qui bouge assez bien, très bon en couverture, homme à homme. Donc, on va voir ce que ça va donner. C'est sûr qu'il y a des périodes d'ajustement, mais ça devrait, de ce qu'on voit, parce qu'il va jouer, lui, du côté court du terrain. Donc, c'est possible qu'il va affronter le gros de Montre Coxey, un gros receveur qui, on dirait, il joue ses meilleurs matchs contre les Alouettes, mais Coxey et Burns vont se voir quand même assez souvent sur le terrain. Donc, premier départ pour Lorenzo Burns en tant qu'Alouette, mais il a joué la semaine passée. Il était habillé la semaine passée contre le Rouge et Noir. Donc, deuxième match en carrière. La grosse nouvelle cette semaine, c'est que le maraudeur étoile Marc-Antoine Dequoy est de retour. Il revient d'une commotion cérébrale. Il a raté les 2 derniers matchs. Arthur Hamlin a quand même, tu sais, la recrue a quand même bien joué. Mais quand tu as le meilleur maraudeur de la ligue, puis tu le ramènes dans ta formation partante, c'est sûr que ça change l'allure de la défensive. Tu sais, c'est gros, c'était une lourde perte pour les Alouettes, mais le fait qu'il soit de retour d'une commotion, c'est chose certaine que c'est important pour les Alouettes. Et de quoi il joue bien partout, mais à Toronto, on se souviendra que il a quand même réussi l'interception sur la première séquence à l'attaque lors de la finale de l'Est l'an passé. Donc, il connaît Chad Kelly, il connaît les tendances de Chad Kelly. Donc, Marc-Antoine Dequoy va être de retour dans la formation. Donc, on va voir ce que ça va donner. OK, aussi, j'avais une statistique, j'ai fait un tout petit peu de recherche là. Il y a une statistique que je voulais mentionner parce qu'on a parlé un peu du fait que l'attaque le groupe en arrache. Tu sais, c'est pas juste le corps arrière, c'est pas juste les receveurs, c'est pas juste la protection. Tu sais, c'est tout le monde. Tout le monde doit être un peu meilleur, un peu plus sharp, comme on dit en bon québécois. Mais il y a quand même une stat qui m'impressionne. Et c'est concernant Charleston Rambo. Rambo, lors des 2 derniers matchs, a réussi des attrapés de plus de 50 verges. Un contre Calgary, un contre Ottawa. Là, ça fait 2 matchs de suite. 3 de ses 4 derniers matchs et 4 de ses 6 derniers matchs qu'il est en mesure de capter une passe d'au moins 50 verges. Tu sais, c'est des jeux explosifs, ça, qui peuvent changer l'allure du match, qui peut changer le positionnement sur le terrain. Tu sais, je pense à celui contre Calgary. Cody Fajardo lance de sa propre zone début. Puis là, tout d'un coup, un lancer, une réception pour Rambo et on est au centre du terrain. Tu sais, c'est quand même c'est beau à voir. Et Rambo, là, c'est depuis le début du camp d'entraînement, on a vu, il y a un écart entre lui et les autres receveurs recrues qui ont été au camp d'entraînement. Et c'est pour ça que il est pas juste, il a pas juste fait le club, il est devenu partant tout de suite. Oui, Austin Mack l'a fait, mais Austin Mack avait quand même joué dans la NFL avant de venir dans la CFL. Là, Rambo a fait partie des Eagles. Il y a une couple d'autres équipes dans la NFL, des Panthers aussi, je me trompe pas. Mais tu sais, il n'a pas joué des matchs dans la NFL. Mais tu sais, c'est quand même un gars qui a connu du succès au niveau collégial. Sa dernière saison à Miami était quand même impressionnante aussi. Il a joué à Oklahoma pour les Sooners. Donc, tu sais, il a joué pour des gros programmes. Mais ce qu'il est en mesure de faire en ce moment, en tant que recrue dans la Ligue canadienne de football, c'est vraiment impressionnant. Et il a connu les statistiques étaient moins bonnes en début d'année, mais il a bâti une chimie. Puis j'ai parlé à Cody Fajardo cette semaine. J'ai demandé, il y a vraiment une belle chimie entre lui et Rambo. Et j'ai demandé de m'expliquer ça. Puis ce que Cody m'a dit, c'est que, écoute, c'est sûr, c'est un bon joueur, mais on dirait que c'est le seul receveur qui a été en santé l'année longue. Donc, c'est sûr que tu as du temps pour bâtir cette chimie-là. Puis, que ça soit Fajardo, que ça soit Davis Alexander, les deux corps ont été en mesure de réussir des jeux explosifs avec Rambo. Donc, je voulais le mentionner, c'est un point positif en attaque. Rambo, incroyable, j'ai hâte de voir ce qu'il va faire contre les Argos, mais il est tout jeune, je pense qu'il a 25 ans, puis il a un potentiel quand même énorme, ce joueur-là, et c'est vraiment un bon kid, là. Donc, c'est un joueur avec vraiment une belle attitude. Bon, on va passer à notre entrevue en anglais. So it's time to go to our interview this week with defensive end Avery Ellis. We mentioned it earlier in the show, but he did play in his 100th game. We'll ask him about that and so much more. This is my one-on-one interview. Joey Alfieri with Avery Ellis. So Avery, congratulations on 100 games. That was the last one in Ottawa. What do you remember about the first one?
I got the sack.
Did you really? Who'd you get?
Ricky Ray.
Okay.
Against Toronto in Ottawa. Yeah. I don't remember the game in full, but I do remember that was my first game, first sack. Yeah.
What were your impressions of the CFL back early on? What kind of impressions did you have? How much did you know about Canada and the way that we played football here in the field and the yard off the ball and all that stuff?
First coming up here, I did not know much at all. I got a call from JM. He said he think I could be an asset up here, and at first I was hesitant because I didn't know much about the game. Then I ended up coming up here and. To be quite honest, I didn't think I was going to last long because I'm like, well, it's football, but look, here I am.
So how does the body feel 100 games later? Is it, I know we're all getting older, but does it take longer to recover?
I think that's a mindset. It might, but I always tell myself the opposite. I still feel young. I still feel like I have years left in me. So does it feel that way? I would never tell myself that internally.
Did you know it was game 100?
I had no idea until maybe 20 minutes before kickoff, and they put the 100 sign above my locker, and I was like, oh, no way. So it was cool.
How special was it for you? You played for Ottawa, Edmonton, Montreal, most of your career in Ottawa. Just how special was it for you to have number 100 out there where it all started?
Yeah, it felt like if it was a full circle. I got my first game there. I got my 100th game there. This time as a visitor, so it was pretty sweet. It was even better that we was able to pull the win off.
So if I asked you for your single greatest, because it's 100 regular season games, so not outside of the Grey Cup, I know the Grey Cup was obviously huge, but outside of your favorite regular season moment that you've ever had in your career?
Favorite regular season moment?
Didn't have to be in Montreal, wherever you like.
Yeah, let's go with, I guess my first touchdown ever. Yeah, that happened when I was against Hamilton, against Masoli in Hamilton. I think the year was 2018. Yeah, 2018 I scored.
What is it you picked off?
He fumbled the snap, or he tried to fumble the exchange, and I was right there. And I had a nice 20-yard run for a touchdown. Yeah. Did
you keep the ball?
Absolutely.
Where is it?
Home, shelved. Probably collecting dust right now, but it's home.
Are you a guy that, do you keep stuff? Do you keep things from your career? Do you swap, memorabilia with guys?
Yeah.
What are some of the cool things you have?
Yeah. So I do swap. Some things I do keep, like my first touchdown ball, my first sack, forced fumble. Those balls I keep, right? But as far as, helmets, let's say from other teams, I may swap with other guys if they need it or want it. Jerseys, I swap often. I only keep one of my jerseys, and that's my Grey Cup. But besides that, everything else I'm swapping.
So who do you like? Who are some of the guys you've swapped with?
My teammates here. So in the CFL, I should say. So Eric Lofton be one. Avery Williams, when he was here, I swapped with him. Some guys that I played with back in the day. So.
So the coolest piece, the one piece of memory, if you had to leave your house in a hurry, what's the first thing you're grabbing that you're saving memorabilia-wise?
Grey Cup ring. What?
No, but that's not memorabilia. That's a Grey Cup ring. I mean, like merch, like memorabilia. Like the ring is already on your finger.
Well, yeah, I would definitely say the jersey. The jersey, for sure.
Yours. The Grey Cup jersey.
Absolutely.
All right. How often have you worn the Grey Cup ring since you got it this past, was that May?
Yeah, since then, I don't think I've worn it since. I haven't. I'm like superstitious in a way where I don't want to touch it until the time is right.
So when do you think you'll wear it?
When I have 2 on my finger.
When you have 2 on your finger. Yeah. Well, I mean, things are going relatively well. It's 11-2-1 this year. I think defensively, the last couple weeks, you guys gave up 13 points of regulation in Calgary. You gave up 12 points in Ottawa. Just what's worked so well, because those aren't things that defenses typically do in the CFL, where everything is catered to the offense.
Yeah, well, Coach Thorpe, he pulls up a good plan, and we go out there, we execute. But as far as execution, we communicate. I think that's one of the biggest things. And guys, outside of football, we hang out together. I think that makes you play for your brother a little bit harder when you actually spend time with each other.
I know that you guys on the defensive line, you guys do the big cookout. I know you've been on the podcast before. We know you're a very famous, very excellent chef. What are some of the things you guys do to hang out? Like, take me through the cookout. You guys, where do you get together? How much do you prep?
Yeah, so like before we used to have it at my place, but this year we started having more cookouts at Bev's. So Bev has a bigger grill, bigger spaces. Now it's not just the D-line. It's most of the defense and like offensive guys come too. So we invite the entire team to come. And there's only one rule, just bring something, right? Whether it could be a big bag of chips, but you don't want to be that guy to only bring a bag of chips. So guys bring chicken, ribs, chips. We've been lacking on sides lately because everyone want to have, steaks and wings, but regardless, we invite everyone, and I'm on the grill. Ento hops on the grill as well, so he's been great at that, and we just hang out with each other. Yeah,
it's a few times you've mentioned that you invite everybody, but I gotta check my inbox. Maybe I just went straight to junk mail.
Yeah. My email should not go to junk mail with you. I don't know what's going on. You should probably fix that.
I'll double check that. Is there anybody who wants to hop on the grill and you're like, nah, you know what, man? I think Ento and I are good.
Yeah. Bev.
He can't grill?
I'm not saying he can't grill, but he just always try to put hot dogs in the grill. And we like, bro, we know you love hot dogs, but you don't gotta keep putting them on the grill. It's all right.
So how many wings do you prepare when you're a full group of guys?
Man, I think what's it? A few weeks ago, we had close to 70, 80 wings.
That's it?
But full wings. You know how wings come
yeah.
But there's the full together. So that was between 70 80, maybe 12 to 13 racks of ribs. But then you can't forget we have chicken breast, and we have pork chops, and we have shrimp, and we had 2 whole salmon fillets, and it was a lot.
Who puts the most away usually when you guys are out there? Who can put it away the most? Yeah.
Ooh. That depends who's there. Moose can eat a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Moose has an appetite. It just depends. Moose, I would say any D lineman. Yeah, I've seen Moose put it back. I've seen, who else? He's the only guy that I noticed that walked up and was grabbing things not before they were ready, but as they were done.
Straight off the grill with his fingers?
Straight off the grill.
All right, there's nothing wrong with that. There's an opportunity here, if we can talk about serious things, there's an opportunity here that, to clinch the first place in the East Division as soon as this weekend. What's the mindset going into Toronto, coming off a big win against Ottawa?
Yeah, I love the mindset we have now where our next game is always our biggest game, right? We weren't thinking about this week, last week. Our most important task was beating Ottawa. So same thing for this week. Our most important task is beating Toronto. And the way we're doing that, we're making this the biggest game, right, of this week, because it is, right? We have to win, and we would treat that moving forward. I feel like that is the proper recipe for us to become as successful as we are. We treat the next game as the biggest one.
Mm-hmm. You guys clinch with a win or with an Ottawa loss. Ottawa plays before you. I'm just curious. I don't know if you've ever been in this position before. Yeah. If Ottawa loses before you, how do you make sure that you're locked in and motivated to go out there and still get the job done?
Yeah. I've been in this position where it was the opposite. If a team win or loses, you were out. So
okay.
This is
this is nice.
Yeah, this is for sure. But the way that you do that is guy, like people watch games and check scores. Sometimes it's inevitable to see, right? Because you're preparing and it may be on the screens. I think the biggest thing is knowing what we have at hand, and you never want to let your destiny rely in someone else's hand. Yeah. So as long as we keep that in mind, I think we'll be fine.
Okay, there's a couple of defensive ends that I want to get your opinion on. I feel like Isaac Berglund has turned it on here, especially the last few weeks. What can you tell me about Isaac, the way he's been playing, and just you as you've gotten to know him here in his first years in Alouette?
Yeah, Isaac, that's my guy. I love the way he practices. I love the way he plays. Like, each week we see his effort stands out on the film, but it's not just in games. If we watch him practice, he practices the same way, right? He gives effort. Even for the longest time at the beginning of the season, he always would stay after practice and work on his craft, and now you see it come to fruition later in the season. I think that's a true testament to him, and his hard work is paying off.
The nicest guy you'll ever meet, Isaac Berglund, but he looks crazy with the eye black running down his face. Have you ever thought about going with the eye black that goes from like below your eyes, like all the way down to your chin?
No. Honestly, I think that's needed for him and Sankey. I think they turn into two different characters. Those two guys are so nice outside of pads. They put the pads on, they just turn into a different human being, which I love because we need that to win.
It's like the Joker putting on like his makeup. It's like those guys just turn into savages.
I think in the mirror, you ever see him put it on? He has a big smile in the mirror as he put it on, like he's ready for war. So
it's crazy though. They look crazy.
Crazy or not, it's working.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't work. They look nuts.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to each their own. To each their own.
So you wouldn't? That's not for you though.
I tried it a few times. Like I said, I'm a bit superstitious when it comes to like doing something new, and I don't think I played great when I had some eye black on. So I was like, you know what, I'm done with that.
Okay, give me the wackiest superstition you have.
Socks and underwear.
Always the same one.
Always the same socks for game day. Always a different.
So we're rotating the underwears.
I have to wear a new pair, like brand new pair out the pack. So like my underwear budget is nuts.
Really?
Yeah, it's nuts.
So not the same underwear
ever.
Because that would be
on game day.
Bad,
yeah, ever on game day.
Color stay the same or you change?
Typically blue or black. Like mostly blue.
So what do you like? Do you throw it out once the game's over?
No, I just throw it in rotation for any other day besides game day.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this has been going on for a few years now, so yeah.
Maybe we start auctioning those off for charity or something. I don't know.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
Okay, I'm not ending on that note. But defensively, what do you guys want to accomplish here? The last month, I'm going to make the very smooth segue from talking about your underwear to talking about football. But what is there left for you guys to do between now and the end of the year?
What's left? I think is getting 1% better every day. As you see, we're getting better game by game. And I think we are on the trajectory of getting better. We're moving up. So paying attention to our detail, seeing what we could improve on, and capitalizing that in practice so we can do so in the game. I think that's what's next for us on defense. Is
there something in particular that you feel like you yourself want to work on, or defensively you guys would like to just fine-tune before getting to playoff time?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we want to work on, which we started to do more, is more turnovers, more defensive touchdowns, right? And that's something that was big for us last year, and I feel like we're getting back into the groove for that to be big for us this year.
But how do you explain, like last year was just an obscene amount. Like there's no way you guys are going to be able to stay on that pace. But how do you explain like this year? I think the rough-in one might have been the first one.
Yeah, it was first. But like that's what you need. That's the spark, right? Because you don't know what's possible until it's possible, right? And with that being the first one, he made it possible to saying, hey, we can keep this train moving, and we will.
I'm just curious. I mean, you guys were really one of the only teams last year to stop and to slow down Chad Kelly and the Toronto offense in the East Final. I'm just curious, like, what's the approach going into a matchup against him now that he's back? Because I know the first two times that we went out there or that they came here, he didn't play.
Yeah. Well, our approach to him is understanding what he likes, understanding his game plan, and then making him play left-handed, right? So we know certain things that he likes to do on offense, certain ways he likes to attack a defense, and we want to take those things away and make him play left-handed.
You talk to him at all? Like trash talk, not nice talk?
Yeah, no, I'm not really a trash talk kind of guy. I'm more of a like, how's your kids type of guy. I'm like, oh, this guy is nice, but I'm about to take your head off, So there's a little bit of reverse psychology into that.
Thank you for talking about your 100th game, your underwear, and chicken wings and everything.
Yeah. That should be like my podcast. Underwear, chicken wings, and 100th game.
Yeah. Can I host it?
Absolutely.
I won't wait for the invite in the mail, though, because it's probably not coming. That's what I learned here today.
It's probably going to go to junk mail because you got to change that. But
yeah, no, it is. We've emailed before, and every time you email me, it doesn't go to junk.
You know what? We got to figure out, things are happening.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
How about that? That's a crazy superstition. You have to wear a brand new pair of underwear every single game. I love it. I love when guys have these weird superstitions. I'm not really a superstitious guy, but it's so interesting. The mind of an athlete that will and how it works. I just find that really, really interesting. So big game this weekend. The Alouettes can clinch first place with an Ottawa loss in Saskatchewan at 3 p.m. or an Alouettes win against the Toronto Argonauts. This is the second trip to BMO Field this season. The Alouettes won earlier this year. And of course, they were coming off that win in the East Final last year as well. So they've had some success the last couple of weeks, or the last couple of times that they've gone to BMO Field. So really looking forward to this team taking on the Toronto Argonauts. It's a big game for the Argos too. Don't kid yourself. You look at the standings in the East right now, and there's a gap between first and second. But if you look at the way it's mapped out right now, Montreal is 11-2-1. Ottawa's 8-5-1. The Argonauts are 7-7, and the Tiger Cats are 5-9. All of a sudden, Hamilton wins this week. Hamilton is playing on Friday night in Vancouver, I believe. Yes, that's exactly what's happening. They play Friday night at 10:30. The Tiger Cats find a way to win that game, and the Alouettes beat the Argonauts. All of a sudden, things get really interesting. Now, of course, there is an Eastern team that could potentially cross over into the West, but that's far from guaranteed. So this is a huge game for the Toronto Argonauts because a tie in the standings between Toronto and Hamilton, it goes to Hamilton, my friends. The Tiger Cats have won 5 games this season. 3 of them have come against the Argos. The Tiger Cats have won 3 in a row. And of course, they beat the Argos last week. The Argonauts 5-2 at BMO Field this year. Montreal 6-0 away from home. So these are teams that respectively, the Argos play well at home, and Montreal plays very well on the road. But of course, the Red Blacks were 6-0 at home last week, and Montreal went in there and beat them pretty good. So it'll be an interesting week. Even in the West, you look at the way it's all shaping out. The Blue Bombers have won 6 in a row. They play Edmonton on Friday night. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon, so they play tomorrow night. Edmonton, this is must-win territory for the Elks as well. Because they lost to Winnipeg last week, and they are a couple points back. They're 3 points back of Saskatchewan for the final playoff spot. So if they want to stay, if they want to hang in there, they absolutely need to win. But it's a big game for Winnipeg too, because they're only a game ahead of BC for first place in the West. So it should be interesting tilts all the way around here in the Canadian Football League. But there's no doubt that things are shaping up in the East Division, and nobody is secured when it comes to a playoff spot. The Red Blacks have not clinched the playoff spot just yet. They can come close. They do have a ton of injuries. They had a lot of injuries going into that game against Montreal last week, and I think they had about 5 or 6 more during the game. So things will be tough. It's not an easy schedule for the Red Blacks, so they could get passed by the Argonauts. It'll be very interesting to check out that race. So Montreal could do Ottawa a favor by taking care of Toronto. It's going to be fascinating to see. To me, it's one of those situations where, I know that this team is mentally tough. I'm talking about the Alouettes, but if Ottawa loses and you clinch that first place and the Alouettes go and put together a solid performance and win in Toronto, that'll tell me a lot about this football team. That'll tell me a lot about the way that this football team thinks and the way that they prepare. And I know that they're mentally tough, and I know that Jason Moss is going to pump them up, no matter what the situation is. That's the plan. But, I think if they go in there and they take care of business, whether Ottawa wins or not, that'll give me a strong indication that, this team is for real. And I know they're for real. I mean, there's nobody in the league that's won more than 8 games. Ottawa and Winnipeg have won 8 games. and Montreal's at 11. So, just to give you an idea, that's the type of thing that Montreal is dealing with. But it'll be a tricky situation if Ottawa loses and Montreal all of a sudden goes to Toronto and doesn't really have a ton to play for. It'll be an interesting situation to see how they approach that matchup. I personally think they'll be fine. I've seen this movie before. I know that Jason Moss is going to have the guys ready to go, like I said. But it is going to be, it might be a tricky situation. You got to keep these guys motivated for the postseason run. Thankfully, after this week, there's a bye week, then there's 3 games left. But there's not a ton of downtime, but you can clinch first place in the East by late September, and that's a pretty impressive accomplishment. But you got to keep the troops ready, and you got to keep them on their toes down the stretch. All right, I mentioned it. It is a bye week next week, so we will not be back with a podcast. We got the week off, not from working, but from the podcast. But we will give the guys some space. We're not going to interview anybody. We're going to be doing some work and get you ready for the October 14th game against the Ottawa Redblacks on Thanksgiving Monday. Again, I keep saying this every week. It's been a while since we played a home game, but the tickets sell very well. And just be on the lookout for, I think there's going to be, I don't want to scoop anybody, but I think there's going to be some form of combination of regular season and playoff package that is going to come out over the next few weeks. So I know there's a ton of people already asking about playoff tickets. Don't wait. As soon as you see the details come out on the Alouettes social media channel, get after it because those tickets are going to go fast. If Montreal finishes first in the East, if they clinch that, it's 1 win at home, and then you're off to the Grey Cup. That's the reality of the situation. So, it's going to be a huge game with a spot in the Grey Cup on the line. So you definitely want to make sure that you are there for that. So don't waste any time. I can't really give more details as of right now, but just be on the lookout next week. You'll have your opportunity to pick up some playoff tickets in Montreal at Percival Molson Stadium. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Bon match ce samedi soir et on se croise dans 2 semaines parce que la semaine prochaine, on a une semaine de congé, donc il n'y aura pas de balado parce qu'on ne fera pas d'entrevue avec des joueurs. On leur donne un peu de congé. Mais on est de retour dans 2 semaines avant le match de l'Action de grâce contre le Rouge et Noir d'Ottawa. Bonne fin de semaine tout le monde. On se croise bientôt.